This episode of the Home Impodcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/homeimpodcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And without further ado, we're going to get right back into the Jungle to Jungle podcast that we did. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and do that first. We're going to jump in about halfway through the movie here, so we'll pick up right where we left off. And with that, here's the show. So now we're at this aforementioned dinner.
Describe the fashion dinner.
Ugh.
Describe the types, or what they think they're doing.
Yeah, Fiona is the fashion mogul, and she's exactly what every stereotypical, like, fashion mogul would be. Like, just very full of herself, well-to-do.
She has a Cruella de Vil vibe.
Oh, yeah. And there's a couple other people there, right? And Mimi has instead...
There is a stereotypical gay man.
Sure.
Who faints later on in a very scene that really lacks dignity.
Yeah.
Really lacks dignity, but go ahead.
Mimi has changed into a baggy sweater, so I suppose that's better than a loincloth, and he's helping to set up the table, although he's confused because where he eats, they do not have utensils. There's a cat eating some wet food, which we will see later.
He says, "Cat fat, we eat cat," and I was like, that's funny. I like that. Some of Mimi Siku's little one-liners are pretty funny. I want to give the bio on Mimi Siku. I wanted to kind of stretch these out a little bit. So Mimi Siku is played by Sam Huntington. Did you recognize this guy at all since then?
I know he's been in some stuff since then, but I didn't recognize it until I actually did some research.
Yeah, he's done pretty well for himself. Yeah. So 37 credits to his name. Right now, he's on the television show Rosewood, which is on Fox. I've never watched it, but I think it's kind of reasonably popular. Before that, he did Being Human, which was a show that ran for quite a few seasons on Sci-Fi. He was in Sully last year, which was a film I really liked. He was in the Veronica Mars movie and I believe the TV show. He was Jimmy Olsen in the 2006.
That's what I recognized him from.
Yeah, I would say, I think most of the Superman movies have been bad. The last couple.
Yeah.
That one was bad as well, but he played Jimmy in that. And he also was in Not Another Teen Movie, which is kind of under the radar, a very funny movie. If you're interested in, like, parodies and, like, I don't know, that movie was one where I watched when I was young. I thought it was funny, and I think it still kind of holds up. It's just satirizing all those American Pie kind of movies, but
yeah.
Commentary. He's in that as well. So, yeah, he's had a nice little career for himself. So, that's Sam Huntington.
Good for Sam.
I think so.
This was his first big film, right?
Yeah, second credit overall, first like major film. And whatever you want to say about the film, I think his performance is, it could be a lot worse, I would say. Like, I think it's humorous. Like, he has like a good delivery and his broken English kind of works. So I buy it.
Way to go, Sam. Where are we? Oh yeah, so like you said, Mimi wants to eat the cat. Also, I was going to say, Fiona has a lot of dietary requirements. She can only eat certain things in certain ways.
She would fit in well in 2017. Yeah. As everyone
she'd for sure be eating gluten-free and paleo and all that stuff. So
yeah, definitely.
Food arrives, and instead of eating that, we go, like, they bring in the food, and they pan over, and Mimi could not wait for this food to arrive. Instead, he's eating the wet cat food, and he says it's pretty good. He says that Charlotte's a good cook.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Everyone is disgusted.
The visual, it actually is pretty gross, but doesn't someone faint even?
Isn't that where this guy faints? Or was that earlier?
No, I think... Okay, yeah, maybe he does faint. I don't know. Or maybe he faints when the guy goes outside. But
maybe he faints multiple times.
Well, you know how that is. No, it's... in any case, it's gross, but people act as if, like, they come in and he's lost an arm or something. The reaction is like just shrieking and just kind of pandemonium. It doesn't, really add up necessarily. But, they walk into that, and Michael and the wife, whose name is Charlotte, they fight. Or not the wife, the fiance. They fight a fair amount. I'm wondering what the age difference is. She looked
10 years
younger. 10 years, is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I made that up. That seems right.
Okay. So yeah, what follows?
Later, Mimi's like outside sleeping in his hammock, and this is when Charlotte and Michael are really arguing about what's going to happen here. And Michael says that he's going to go home soon. Mimi's going to go home soon. And then we get another nice scene where Michael goes outside with Mimi, and he puts a blanket on him and tousles his hair, and is just a wonderful father. And then he sees the blowgun and thinks, I want to give this a shot. Mimi's done some pretty nice work with it. I'd like to see what I can do. He shoots himself in the foot, and apparently that's enough to make him fall asleep. So. And
then Mimi covers him. So it's full circle. It's full circle. I like how they did that. Next day, Mimi is like out on the balcony, and he has a sizable bow and arrow, and just I don't know, just the visual of him holding the bow and arrow was funny. And the woman below on the terrace has just a bunch. She's feeding like pigeons or something, and he shoots one, and she freaks out. We go inside. We have some nice Captain Crunch product placement. Very, very blatant. And Mimi, like, I don't know, Michael isn't specific enough on the instructions, so he says, you pour this on this. So he does it without the bowl, so he just puts the cereal on the table and that was funny, I thought.
He's just doing what his dad tells him to do. I don't know.
That's funny. I think those kind of misunderstandings they made me chuckle. Michael has to go to work, and he decides to leave Mimi with Charlotte, the girlfriend, which
seems like a bad idea.
It's not a good idea, and you know what? It doesn't work out well. There's a kind of they define what do they define here? Obligated. So like he talks about obligation, and it's pretty on the nose, but. I don't know. Michael's talking about how he has to go to work because he's obligated to do so. And then he defines it to Mimi. And Mimi, he is a quick study. He holds on to that definition, and you better believe it's going to come back later.
Yeah, and so he says obligation is doing something that you don't want to do, basically. And also today, Michael he makes several promises that he does not keep in this film. And the one that he does not keep today is that they were going to go to the Statue of Liberty, but he cannot. So he says they're going to have to go tomorrow. Later on, Mimi's at home, and he's making the best of it. He's hunting some flies around the house. He tries to feed them to Matika, but Matika got out of her little bowl, and Matika is just wandering around this flat, trying to find out what's going on. And Mimi goes into the bedroom and... What?
You live in an apartment complex, Jordan, there's just going to be sounds.
Yeah. Just like those birds earlier. Mimi goes into the bedroom, starts to lift up the blanket to see if he can find Matika, and Charlotte's still asleep. And he says, nice poonchy poonchy?
Yeah, and she doesn't care for that.
No. I don't suppose that anyone would. She runs down.
Is he referring to her butt?
I suppose so. I mean, that's what he's supposed to see.
Or could it be something worse?
Well, I
not from that angle.
Yeah, it would be hard. She's laying the other way, so the butt makes sense. But
but Poochie Poochie would remind you more of something
Michael
else.
at the office. We're gonna go to the office.
Hey, we promised unfettered. I'm giving it.
Michael calls home. She hears like a nice voicemail that he left, and then all of a sudden, while she's brushing her teeth, she sees the spider and starts freaking out and yelling, and Matika tries to get through the door because Matika loves yelling. Mimi is outside, kind of distracted. He's exploring his old... What is he doing? He's exploring his old clothes or something, trying to figure out what's going on.
I think he goes...
this is when he goes rogue, right?
Yeah, he just goes rogue, and it's Little Mimi, Big City. So this is where the Shaggy Peter Gabriel music plays. Maybe we'll use some of that at the end. But it's fun. It's jazzy. It's a good... I mean, Shaggy and Peter Gabriel... I mean,
natural combo.
That's a duo we were looking for. That's kind of, yeah.
Everyone was clamoring for that kind of collaboration in the 90s.
When are these two titans of industry going to get together? And well, it happened for Jungle to Jungle. So Mimi is just kind of... This is where it really reminded me of Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, this is
just like
straight out of that
just
movie.
Walking around. He's walking on. Probably one of the better jokes in the film is there's a homeless guy begging for change, and Mimi hands him a dead bird. And he says, "Here, eat." Oh man, I got a huge laugh out of that.
Good.
I thought that was good. I thought that was really funny.
Mimi continues to explore. He finds a crate and barrel and sees some really nice pots and pans. So you can imagine what he would do with those.
Yeah, it's like an oddly sexual kind of like he looks at it and you can imagine him just kind of feeling sort of aroused, it's just like a Pavlov's dog kind of thing. Like you ring the bell and you salivate, you see a pan and you feel things.
Oh man! Back at the office, while Mimi's exploring, Richard has found a buyer for their coffee.
I'm so sick of Martin Short in this movie. God, it's terrible. I mean, this is really setting up the third Santa Claus movie because their dynamic in this is pretty much garbage, and Martin Short just is not funny.
And they just continue it on the Santa Claus 3. But that's pretty much all they have back in the office. Then they go back to where Mimi is.
Can I ask you some? Well, I'll save my question for later. Go ahead.
All right. So Mimi is on a ferry, but he's not sitting in the normal place that a patron of the ferry would sit. He's sitting on the very back of the ferry. Yeah. Seems dangerous and probably a bad idea, but
I've been on that ferry.
Did you see anyone sitting off the back?
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, okay. So that was kind of your pilgrimage. You saw
Jungle same kind of thing, and then I climbed to the top of the Statue of Liberty.
Yep. So that's what he does. He goes up there, and we see some of that CGI that you were talking about. Everyone else who's at the Statue of Liberty is alarmed. This man is climbing to the top, and he almost fell. And
do you think that do you think it's bad, or does it just seem bad now? The CGI, like, of him sitting on top of the Statue of Liberty.
I think it's probably, well...
also, like...
Remember the Santa Claus? They had some stuff...
That was better.
Yeah.
That was better, wasn't it? Oh, budget on this was probably bigger, actually.
It was.
I don't know.
It was $10 million bigger.
Yeah, it's hard because, like, I don't know. Maybe if you're watching it on like HD TVs now, or like watching it clarity, like you can just really tell like kind of what's happening, that he's being kind of spliced in, but maybe on a more like granular kind of screen it wouldn't have played, but it didn't look very good.
No, and Mimi's disappointed as well, but mostly because there's no fire in the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, that would be disappointing.
He did a lot of work to get up there. So
it would be disappointing.
But back at the office...
A
call for Michael from the police, and they meet up and they start arguing, and Mimi gives him the business.
Mimi says he's a man, and Michael says you're an adolescent. Mimi says you're an adolescent.
Got him good.
Which is where it's like, yeah, I guess like teenagers are kind of teenagers wherever they're at, because he's like sulking and stuff and just like acting like a 13-year-old. So you don't have to be suburban or living in the United States for that to kind of have taken hold of you.
Yeah.
But this is like a fight that is it's short. Like Tim or Michael is sort of like, yeah, you're right. I'll be more patient with you. I'll show you're in my city. I'll show you. I'll show you the ropes and stuff. Like it's okay. I'm not mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna show him how to be a man. And
what do they do in this city if they want to go anywhere? They put up their arm.
They call it taxi.
Yeah.
But it's a miracle if the taxi comes. But you know what the real miracle is, Jordan? Go ahead and say what the real miracle is in a taxi.
If the driver speaks any English.
If the driver speaks English. And you know what? They thought that was such a good line that they put it in the trailer.
They did.
Yeah. That was one where it's like, oh no.
Not great.
Yikes.
Not great.
That was like the one. That was one of the times in the movie where I was like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It'll be magic if he understands English. But the king. There's a lot of cutting here.
Yeah.
From here on out, there's just a lot of cutting. This is where Martin Short, as jackass in charge, has found like he's found a buyer for the coffee, and the buyer is this like Russian mafioso. So they go to... Am I skipping anything?
The only thing I can think of that we kind of skipped over is in that last scene, the fight really starts with Michael saying that he was obligated to take Mimi.
Yeah. You're right, yeah.
And Mimi takes off.
The obligation thing is what sets that in, because Mimi's just been given the definition of obligation, and he knows that it's doing something you don't want to do. So Michael says, like, I'm obligated to have you here, so it means that he doesn't want him here. And it was a mean thing to say.
It was a mean thing to say.
They do make up very quickly.
Yeah, well, after, like, a chase through the city where everyone almost gets run over by cars everywhere, but...
Yeah, I mean, it is only like a 15-second chase, though. So, is this where we get the United Nations song and dance that happens in Central Park?
Oh yeah, they start going through Central Park, and they
is that at the end of this scene, or is it later on?
No, that's later on.
Okay,
so there's kind of a cut here. He has to take off. Like you said,
a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. Well, so what happens is at the end of the scene, Mimi says he needs to learn how to run because Michael says you need to learn how to live in my jungle. They hail a taxi. Michael has to go to the fish market because that's where this buyer is with Richard. Yeah. So they meet up. This is where the buyer is. There's lots of rules to meet with this buyer. You need to ring once, knock twice, but they go up to the door and they forget what order to do stuff in because...
In my opinion, this is when the movie really goes off the rails.
Yeah, and once you get this buyer involved...
Yeah, I'm not I'm not saying that this is like a perfect movie by any means before, that it's even like good, but like this is where things for me kind of sour. Like this, it just gets...
Once you introduce a Russian mafioso...
it's just super convoluted at this point. And this is like, so they're trying to sell this guy the coffee. Can you explain to me, like, I don't get what's happening. All right, I'll tell you what I think is happening. So they bought this coffee... Or, like, Michael bought this coffee, and Martin Short was supposed to dump it and make some kind of a profit, right? That was the deal with the commodities. Mm-hmm. But he didn't because Tim Allen didn't give him the okay because Martin Short is afraid to do anything without his dear friend support. Mm-hmm. So he finds a buyer on his own, which is what you do in that job. You find someone to buy all the commodity, and he's going to buy it from them, and therefore they're going to not take a loss on it, or
they're going to take less of a loss than they would if they held on to it, because coffee keeps going down. So you can give me crap for all the financial stuff you want, but when you make me explain this stuff, it only...
Yeah, well, I haven't heard your explanation.
So the problem here, they said, they're trying to find a buyer so they can just get rid of it. Coffee seems to be going down, and the longer they...
Do people that deal in commodities find their own kind of, like, is that something they do on their own? They say, oh, I'm going to find a buyer... Like, on your own, like, you just, like, start making phone calls and try to find someone? Is that how it works?
Well, that's how it would work for them. If they can't find a buyer on the floor, they're going to have to find someone who would invest in there. And so this Russian guy is going to do it, but he wants to do it in cash. And this leaves them very suspicious because it looks like money laundering. This guy wants... not only will he will buy their coffee, but he wants a guarantee that it won't drop below 75 cents. So this guy is willing to take a loss to hide his money, but if it goes below too low, he loses a bunch of money that he's been illegally getting. So that's why he wants the guarantee.
How do they say the laundering part? That wasn't necessarily.
After they, like, Michael says, "Can I talk to my friend outside?" They kind of mention it there. It's obviously some sort of suspicious money laundering deal there. Michael says, "Do not make the deal. This is a bad idea." And he has to leave. He has to go see Mimi because they're going to have a joyous time in Central Park.
It's a bad time to leave.
Bad time to leave because Richard, he makes the deal.
Because he's spineless. So he leaves. This subplot's terrible. I mean, I really like this.
Let's get back to Michael and Mimi because...
I mean, this is the whole thing is so unnecessary. Come up with another conflict, I guess. So they head to Central Park, and basically this is where do we get here?
The music. Mimi hears some music. He's drawn to it.
Mimi says there's many tribes in New York, and this is the scene that is. It's not like it's fine. Like it's not offensive or anything, but it's just like super corny. There's just like. It's like a McDonald's commercial.
Diversity.
There's like a person of every race, ethnicity, religion, kind of dancing around in Central Park to.
It's my life. I do what I want. Is some of the lyrics.
Okay, yeah. So just like basically like, you know what? This isn't the jungle per se, but there's a lot of different tribes here, and we are diverse, and we have fun, and
America is the best.
We're going to let loose. We are a melting pot of cultures, and all cultures are treated fairly and equally.
Except for
if only they knew how things would play out. So yeah, the Mimi and Michael, they kind of begin dancing, and
Michael won't dance right away until Mimi makes him.
Yeah,
and then everyone joins in once these two fools are dancing.
A lot of dancing going on, and it's a fine scene, I guess. It's just a little bit corny, maybe.
It's a lot of bit corny, but that's okay. So they go back home. Michael has had a heck of a time. He hasn't danced like that since he was a kid. Charlie's still trapped in the bathroom, though. The spider is still trying to get in. Michael pretends that he's going to kill Matika, while Mimi actually gets Matika back into its little, I don't know, two bowls that are together.
Yeah, it's basically like a bowl, a wicker bowl on top of a wicker bowl. I want to give a bio on Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Charlotte is played by Lolita Davidovich. 93 credits to her name. Recently appeared on the TV show Shades of Blue. She does a lot of TV work. Shades of Blue, currently running. Before that, she was on a show called Blood and Oil, which was canceled. She was in the second and much maligned season of True Detective, but that was a big-time show. She did the show The L Word and was in the film Gods and Monsters. So, many of the people in this, most of the people in the show have gone on to have pretty successful careers after this. So that's nice to see for them.
Yeah, this really catapulted their careers, right?
Yeah, they use this in their reel, their demos.
So Charlie is upset. She's been in the bathroom all day, and she decides that she's going to leave and go stay with somebody else. I don't know if it's her parents or whoever, but no one really cares. Ian shows up, immediately starts filming this fight, because that's what Ian does. He just films. He wants the authentic life of Charlie. Charlie says she's an artist. And that's one of those things that, like, makes you want to vomit when you hear it. You know, it's just one of those cliches. Yeah. And then she leaves. And then a serious conversation happens between Michael and Mimi about why did Paliku leave you? Michael gets real here for a second. He says he took her for granted. Mimi asks why he only picks one female in this city. Mm-hmm. And Michael goes on to explain how love is different than, I suppose, lust. For Mimi. So, some more parenting there from Michael in that situation.
Michael is a good dad.
He's like, as you said earlier, he's taking it all in stride, and I'm surprised they didn't want to have kids to begin with in that relationship.
Well, he probably did, but then the second he installed that fifth phone line, she just bailed, so he didn't have the opportunity.
Well, we see that Charlotte and him are not interested in kids at all, so I don't know. Yeah. It just seems a little strange to me that it came to that. But Michael takes a car ride to Richard's because Mimi's going to stay there for a while. Jan, who is Richard's wife, they are going to let Mimi spend the night while Michael patches things up with Charlotte. A lot of cuts here. Richard is at the office. Coffee is plunging, which is bad news because he made that deal and it goes below 75. The phone starts ringing. And then Richard leaves the office. Another cut again, back at home. We see Andrew for the first time.
Andrew's a revelation. I tried to find some Andrew clips because that dude crushes it. I mean, like, everything he says, I was just, like, feeling like he's just, like, he's so aware, you know? He's, like, he is basically the father figure in this family. He just gets it in ways that none of the other people in the Kempster clan really do.
That's right.
Did you think Andrew?
Do you
think Andrew was funny?
Yeah, I mean he doesn't have a lot of lines, to be honest.
Yeah, but they're all good.
But they all nail it. And he's really, like you said, we need somebody like Andrew when things start really going south on this Russian mafioso kind of thing. So
yeah, it's I guess, I mean, I didn't view this as being like a big deal, but Richard's daughter is played by Lily Sobieski, and I didn't even get a bio for her, but like in the trivia, they apparently thought that this was a big deal. She's recognizable. I remember she's in the well, I should pull it up now. She's in Eyes Wide Shut, Joyride, The Glass House, 88 Minutes. She's in the really terrible Nicolas Cage Wicker Man. I think for a while people thought she was going to be maybe a little bit more popular than she actually became, but this is her theatrical debut. So, yeah, and she's wearing a shirt that says "Girls Rule," which I know. In many ways, she's right.
That's right.
You know? So Mimi's staying with the Kempers, and there's immediately some chemistry between Mimi and Karen. Lily Sobieski, as we just mentioned. This is where Andrew kind of steals the show. He's got a lot of good one-liners, but again, we're cutting. It's a lot. The end of this movie is just like it's either Mimi with the family out in what we can imagine as the suburbs, or dealing with the mafioso type. So we cut. Find out that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Andrew here is kind of like Randy with Brad and Jennifer Zdarsky.
Yeah, you're right. He's funnier than Randy, though.
he just.
And I know it's blasphemy to say, but he is funnier than Randy. I think.
I don't know if I can agree with that, but
she's like, I don't know. Mimi gives her a fake name right away, and she's says I don't know. Basically, Andrew says he's going to take her room, and he uses the made up name, and it's just he just crushes it. Martin Short's Richard made the deal with the Russian,
the devil,
because he's a piece of garbage. He's on his 5th different haircut, I wrote, so apparently his hair was changing throughout. At this time, Michael is at dinner with Charlotte, and I suppose you're supposed at this point you're supposed to kind of feel bad for her, because he's basically saying he says that there's only one thing that's more important than her, and it's what's happening with his work right now. And he just kind of leaves, so you can sort of see how maybe his wife before left him, because he very much puts work and basically everything first. There's a humorous back and forth where the Kemper mom is going to cook fish, but it's frozen fish and
sticks.
Mimi bites it. Yeah, it's fish sticks, and Mimi bites it, and he's like, that's not fish.
But luckily, there's an aquarium from the 90s aquarium craze in this house.
I'm glad you said that, because I was very happy to bring this up. But yeah, we'll say that for a second. Where do we deals with Russian? I don't really know. My notes are a little bit difficult to decipher.
You've written in a different language?
I wrote, leaves Marty, Tim and wife, sexy time, shoots dart, hits cat, oh no, fakest cat ever. Those are the kind of notes I have. So,
hold on, pump the brakes.
Okay.
So, before this happens, they're back at Richard's house, and Mimi is cooking real fish outside. Jan tries it not knowing where this fish comes from, and she thinks it's pretty good. But turns out this fish is probably going to come from a bad place, because we saw the aquarium earlier. Then they go back to the fish market. Jovanovic is cutting fish. They want to get their money back, and... Michael and Richard want to give the money back, because they feel like...
It doesn't... Here's the thing. It doesn't make any... it gets... so hard to...
They want to give the money back because they think Jovanovic is going to kill him, because coffee went under 75 cents. Okay?
This is a movie that should revolve around a kid leaving the jungle and going to New York City. You're giving me all this nonsense about coffee and money and insider trading and back and forth and profit margins, and it's just
Well,
why?
Here's the thing. I'm going to say at the end of the movie, it's a real anti-capitalist movie. But...
Oh, interesting. Save it.
I'm saving it. So the reason that they're going to do this is because they don't want to get killed by Janovic or whatever his name is. But again, Michael leaves Richard there to kind of tie up the loose ends, which is a dumb idea.
We've shown that, we've seen throughout the movie that just is not a good idea.
Yeah. So they do make the deal, and they give the money back. They now have these coffee, earning our coffee shares again at a really low price. Back at home, Michael got her a nice bracelet. Things are patching up, like you were saying, and they're going to have sexy time. Michael, while he's waiting for that to happen, he messes with the blow dart and then hits the cat. After he's aiming at it like a gong or something. I feel like
he shoots a gong, and then it
bounces off, hits
happens
Coco
in movies with gongs. it bounces and it hits Coco, the white cat.
Yeah,
Ugh,
I wonder.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It's irony. But also
that's cultural appropriation.
I wonder if movies with gongs is one of the plot keywords.
Oh, gong.
Gong movie. You said earlier, Coco is out, and it's obviously like a stuffed animal. But I do think this is funny because he's like,
it is funny. Yeah, it is funny. It's like and it reminded me of a little bit of what happens in the movie Something About Mary with like that, where it's like Ben Stiller's like dealing with the crazy dog. In this case, Tim's dealing with like the dead cat. But it's like very much the same thing. It's like obviously like a puppet of an animal. He's kind of shaking it, but like the cat's okay. We see later on it's fine.
Coco's
but
fine.
It is pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. He throws Coco on the ground. Trying to get it to get a mouse, but it just kind of drops.
Acts like he's cuddling it and stuff. Yeah.
So back at Richard's, he finds that the fish are missing from the aquarium. He bought $10,000 worth of fish.
It's all part of that fish tank craze that 5-6 episodes ago you claimed you knew nothing about.
I still know nothing about it.
I feel vindicated. I'm glad we recorded this episode, if for none other than the reason that my fish tank hypothesis was validated.
Well, if we know anything about science, you see one thing as an indication, and that's the universal truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Fiat.
Yep. So he named all the fish. Jan, the whole family is distraught, and she's putting everyone to bed. Karn watches Mimi go out to the pond from her window, and then she decides to sneak out. This scene is ridiculous. He's catching fish by hand in this pond.
It's like Home Improvement when Brad and Jennifer have the very like sentimental moments that like play like they are 19 or 20. Whereas this, it's like he's teaching her how to catch fish and he's going around her like.
There's so much sexual tension.
It's crazy. It's like this. It's like the pottery scene in Ghost,
yes.
Which I know is a common reference, but this is exactly like that. He goes around her and it's like, yeah, like you kind of wonder how far they're going to take things because the tension is just like
palpable.
It's like dum 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 dum.
Also, I don't think that this would be a way to catch fish.
Well, Mimi can do it. He also paints her face and
in the Panari way.
In the Panari way, and they kiss.
Wait, this is where he gives her her name, which is Sound of Rain on River Water.
That's too long. It's too wordy. A nickname that long is never going to stick.
Well, Karen's not much for words. She goes in for the kiss.
Yeah, and they kiss and they sleep in the hammock together.
Oh,
and,
my goodness.
It's almost as if you forget that they're like 12 years old because
13.
they're taking this pretty seriously, this love affair.
Richard finds them asleep together in the hammock the next morning. Mimi doesn't quite understand the problem. Apparently this isn't a problem in Lipo Lipo. Richard decides he's going to send her to camp. A quite logical reaction. She said that she made the move on Mimi, not Mimi made the move on her, and this really sends the family in a tizzy. They put all of the caught fish in the tank to try to make Richard feel better. Yeah. It's all these like giant bass, like just pond bass,
gross pond fish.
Yeah, and they're like in this expansive tank and stuff. Richard gets a call, and it's not a great call.
Jordan, there's a problem. Jordan, the price of coffee went up.
It's soaring, and you know who'd be mad about this?
The mobster.
The Russian mobster, because
the mafioso.
He thinks they screwed him. They knew that coffee was going to go up, so they screwed him out of money. We switched to Michael at home. Coco's better, so that's good. They're supposed to spend the morning together, but Richard calls with his bad news, and he is out of there by the time she comes out.
Yeah. Hey, how much time has passed in this movie?
I don't know. Years, months, days.
Is it a weekend? Like, how long are we really supposed to think? Like, has he been there 3 days or something?
It's probably less than a week.
It's crazy. All right, that's just what I was wondering. That was one of my other big questions.
Coffee doesn't fluctuate like that.
Over the course of a couple of days.
No.
It takes at least 4 days, probably.
Yeah, no. So Richard sends everyone out from the home. Janovich is going to come over for the coffee certificates because he wants his money, yo. Karen will not open the door upstairs, and Because she doesn't want to go to camp and she doesn't want to leave. Richard at the the push by Andrew.
Request by Andrew. Yeah. Decides to break down the door.
He decides he's gonna
Andrew, man, he's just like he's even like playing his dad at this point.
He wants to watch the world burn. Mimi appears at Karen's window. So he just, I don't know, he just climbs as he does.
He scales the house.
Michael races over in his car. Everything is coalescing together here. Andrew also wants to smoke them out of the room.
that was really funny. He goes, "Smoke them out, Dad." And then Dad's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Really? No." No, that was really funny.
No. Michael comes over and he's trying to understand what is going on. Michael asks astutely, "Was there a pot? Did Mimi give a pot to Karen?" And no, he says, "No pot, no problem." You know.
Yeah, he says. Nevertheless, though, they do, and I remember this. This is probably like the only scene I remembered from when I was young.
Yeah.
So like they're both trying to break down the door, and around the same time, they decide that they're going to let him in. So the second that Michael and Richard are running towards the door opens and they run outside of the house and out of the window.
Through the balcony, they've fallen down, hit the ground, and I don't know how they don't have several broken limbs.
They're okay.
They're fine.
They're okay.
They're fine.
Richard's living pretty large out there. I mean, despite his incompetence, he seems to be making some money. It's a nice house.
Yeah, it is a nice house. He's got plenty of room out there. The kids are about to leave with Jan. But the Russian mobster arrives.
Russian Rob. Do you know who Rob Reiner is?
Yeah.
Russian Rob Reiner arrives. He looks just like him. I better do this guy's bio. So this is interesting. This guy he's had his hands in a lot of
Disney.
A lot of different. David Ogden Stiers, 65 credits. He's done a lot of voice work. He was on the Dead Zone TV show, which is a Stephen King book that I'm currently reading, so I found that interesting. Did voices in the Lilo and Stitch the movie and like all the different TV iterations, which there are seemingly a lot.
Too many.
In the film, The Majestic. He was on a TV show I remember when I was young called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Oh man,
which was the Ryan Reynolds debut.
Yep.
He did the voice in Pocahontas. He was voice,
Governor Ratcliffe, right?
Yeah, voice of Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. And he was a series regular on MASH. He played Major Charles Winchester, 131 episodes. So this
he's a boss.
Kind of reputable. It's a shame to see him in this where he's just so terrible. I mean, he's really bad in this. Maybe it's just like it's hard to play
Russian
mafioso with much dignity, but this is, it's bad all around. His performance is pretty terrible.
He's got a great accent, though.
No. Not really. But all right. So as you said, everything coalesces into one just stellar kind of finale here. So let's work our way through it here.
We're working our way through it. So Michael and Mimi are outside, but the rest of the what are the Kempsters? Is that what their last name is? Richard's family is inside. They are cornered by the mafioso fam. There's 3 of them, I believe. And Mimi has an idea with Matika because Janovich seems to be really loud and yelling quite a bit, which we know Matika loves that kind of stuff. Yeah. So eventually Matika gets on this mobster, goes on the head. He sees it in the mirror and starts freaking out.
They were going to cut the mafioso was going to cut off Martin Short's finger, which I kind of wanted to have happen because I was just like, you know what, maybe
you wanted more of Martin Short screaming.
Maybe he deserves it. But the yelling, he does end up on his head.
All heck breaks loose.
Dude.
Mimi jumps on this guy. Michael gets the blow dart because we can trust him with that at this point. The family attacks. Turns out Karen's a biter.
Oh, yeah. Karen does some biting.
Or Andrew's the biter, actually. He's got... Use your crooked teeth, Andrew. That was my favorite Richard line.
Use those crooked teeth, Andrew, because there is reference of Andrew. He says something about, earlier how, I got to make this money. My kids have crooked teeth.
Braces.
And Andrew's he's like, no offense. Andrew says, none taken.
That almost seems like...
I would take offense to that.
No, I thought maybe some of that was improv, but I guess if Andrew's responding, maybe not.
It wouldn't surprise me if Andrew has some improv skills. That kid just has the chops.
Speaking of Andrew, why don't we do his bio?
Okay. Do you have it?
No, I thought you would have it. That's your job.
I said I only got 6. He's like 10th build. I can do it. All right, Andrew is played by Frankie J. Galasso, as he would be. He was in.
He does some singing Disney work, I believe.
6 credits. Last appeared in A Tale of Two Pizzas as Tommy. He did Christopher Robin voices in a couple of Winnie the Pooh videos, and he was in a TV show called Hudson Street that ran for 22 episodes. He played Mickey Canetti.
I feel like you would hire him right now for your upcoming screenplay.
Yeah, I mean, if he's available, he's 5 years older than we are, so he's still a young man. So that's this is. Yeah. I mean, he's
so
good.
Andrew's
good. I can't sing his praises enough. He's the exact opposite of that kid from the Santa Claus movie that I found so smug and pompous and. Remember that kid? We're elves with attitude.
Oh boy, yeah. Let's not go there. So back to the fight scene. There's a little bit of a gun versus blow dart battle. Mimi incapacitates a guy, and then Michael tries and fails. And Mimi says, "This is where we get the balls one." So when thumb doesn't work, we kick in the balls. Mm-hmm. So he does that. And at this point, they've defeated this Russian mobster and his henchmen so much to the point that they take him to the car with the gun and make them leave. And I guess we're to believe that the Russian guy would never try to seek revenge because he's afraid of spiders.
There's also that's gotta hurt when he gets hit in the balls. So it's always good to have that. That's that's a staple in these kind of movies. You gotta have someone getting kicked in the balls, and you gotta have that's gonna leave a mark. That's gotta hurt, or like he's gonna be feeling that tomorrow. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we get it here.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for that. So that was kind of the crescendo of the movie. So everything is going to kind of slow down now. Mimi's got to leave. Karen and Mimi say goodbye. Richard is nicer to everyone now. Karen has a pretty terrible fake cry upstairs as Mimi leaves. And then Michael keeps his promise. They go to the Statue of Liberty together. There's no fire there, though, so I don't... Mimi doesn't get the fire like he needs to. The chief is going to be real mad. But Mimi at this point is kind of homesick. He is upset because he failed the chief. He misses his mother. Michael is saddened by this. He doesn't want him to go home. No, he wants to be a part of his son's life. So we cut to the airport. Michael tries to give him back the blow gun, or the dart gun, or whatever you want to call that. Mimi says no. If you kill a fly, you are a real Panari. So there's a challenge there for Michael. Michael gives Mimi a gift, but he can't open it until he gets on the plane.
And he also gives him a lighter that is a Statue of Liberty. So technically, it does
fulfills the chief's promise,
fire,
whatever
flame of the Statue of Liberty. So he's sad.
Sad goodbye here.
He's sad. We cut to him being on the plane. He opens up the gift, and it's massive like a phone, I guess, a landline in a box or something.
Yep. Well, it's a satellite phone,
of course. Yes. We've all had.
So he can make calls to his father.
We all have those.
We all do. So they move at home, right? Michael wants to take Charlie on a vacation.
Yeah, she doesn't want to,
and they have to plan it around Ian's stupid filming schedule.
It's not going to work out, and it's very evident. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah, life is not the same anymore. Michael's sad, realize how much his life sucks at work and stuff. This is where, like, the boss does that
money
weird,
is
like,
honey.
money.
And he, like, the boss also, like, repeatedly calls, like, Tim Allen and Martin Short, like, my boy, or, like, my sons, when he's, like, probably only, like, 10 years older than them, He's not a lot older, but he's like, my boy, fellas. But, yeah, he's...
This is where I really think the anti-capitalist part really comes through. Like, they paint the boss as like this greedy, crazy stereotype. Yeah. Michael realizes that this life in New York that he has with, the fashion mogul that is Charlie is not fulfilling, and family is more important. And
don't all these movies do that though? I mean,
I'm not saying
pretty
they
much
don't.
Like every movie like this is going to have like a guy that thinks like his job or money,
especially
or
a Disney
possessions
movie,
are important, and then in the end you realize it's not. But yeah, I agree. So they had the three of them are like celebrating. So to celebrate, they go down to the stock market, and basically like Tim uses the blow.
He spots a fly.
He uses the blow gun to shoot a fly on his boss's head. His boss faints, and then we cuts. Hey, how much money do you think Tim Allen has in this movie? Is he like a millionaire? Okay.
Yes.
I guess that makes sense because
I think he probably makes like $500,000 a year.
yeah, so he's very wealthy, which explains his
Yes.
lifestyle and how he's able to do make all these vacations. Next scene, we are back on the island, and Mimi Siku
Venezuela, baby,
is talking to his mother, and that phone rings, and ring, it's Tim Allen, and he says, "Hey, I got to fly," and he says, "You are," and then, he's very happy to hear from him. He says, "You're officially, part of the tribe," and he says, "How about I show you?" And we turn around, Jordan, and what do we see?
We see Michael. He's there.
He's there.
He's right on the beach.
He's there.
Mimi starts running, embraces his dad. He brought the fly all the way. We don't need to go into the logistics of how the fly made it from New York to Venezuela, but it did. He's going to stay for a while. Also, we see Paliku there. We see Patricia.
Yeah.
And, Michael says hi, but he holds up a big, nice pan.
Well, before that, though, Jordan, the Kempers are there as well. Brought the whole family.
Karen.
We see Martin Short with a lot of sunscreen on his nose, and the whole family comes. I don't know why they staggered their arrival, but coming a little bit later on a smaller canoe is the whole family. Andrew is excited that it might be a topless tribe. The daughter jumps in the water, probably gets some sort of a malaria or something, and then Tim holds up the pan, and I'm thinking, they getting back together?
That's, he says it's an accident, but perhaps not.
I believe in this world there are no accidents, Jordan. Roll credits,
true.
fade to black. Jungle to jungle.
Almost.
There's more. Yes.
There's a
After
credit
the credits,
scene.
So we roll credits, fade to black, but then we cut the credits, and then what happens, Jordan?
Michael is going through the same ritual that Mimi went through earlier, so he has to put his hand on the burning stick. He is apprehensive, but does it briefly. And then he runs to the water and is yelling. Apparently he's going to cool down his hand, but watch out for the piranhas and the alligators, man.
Then we roll credits, fade to black, jungle to jungle. John Pasquin, classic, based on a French film that is Jungle to Jungle.
in the big city.
All right, Jordan, highs and lows. Did you like this?
You know what? I liked it more than a lot of the ratings gave it, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I think that it's stupid in a way that all of these movies are kind of stupid.
Yeah, we go into it knowing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think and we can have we don't have to have a real structured discussion, but I think that I enjoy the actual the jungle to jungle aspect of it. I enjoy the stuff with Tim and Mimi and him coming over the city and their relationship I like. And I think I don't think Tim is as funny in this as he is in the Santa Claus, but I think it's still a pretty good performance. And I do think that their relationship is funny. It's kind of, I suppose, sweet in a way. And I like that part of it. The stuff with the coffee and Martin Short and the work and the mafioso, I think is pretty awful.
It's way too highbrow for any kid to ever understand.
Yeah, it's just
they're not going to understand how trading works and why that would happen.
They could have done something so much simpler. If they're just setting up some kind of peril, there's a lot easier of a way to do that. It's just too bogged down, and it's someone watched Wall Street right before they wrote this movie and were yeah, we got to have some of that in there. But it makes it's even Wall Street explains the stock market and just trading so much better than this movie does. And yeah, this movie that whole part of it to me is just kind of annoying, but it not so much so that I think that the movie's completely worthless. The 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, I would say this movie is more accurately a 40-45%. It's below. Yeah, it's a below average movie, but it's a fine example of what it is. I enjoyed it probably. I enjoyed watching it probably more than I thought I would. I definitely could see why I liked it as a young man, a 7-year-old. I think Mimi's funny. I think Tim is good. I like it's Tim Allen's shtick. It's the same thing as a Santa Claus, but I like that. So
I think I think, Richard is annoying by himself, but when he's with the family, I think he's kind of funny.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you're putting him with other people, it's like him as a dad is more compelling than Richard as like an inept broker.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It's just like I laughed a lot and it was funny and it was enjoyable to watch and stuff. It's far from being like the worst film of 1997. I mean, I really find that hard to believe. But yeah, I mean, as far as lows go, what do you like? I mean, besides like the Russian stuff, anything else that you thought was kind of bad?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about like some of the bad jokes that don't really translate to now.
Yeah.
Those obviously aren't ideal. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing that's super egregious besides the whole Russian mafioso storyline that really bothered me. They make Charlotte or Charlie, same person. They make her incredibly unlikable, and I don't know why Tim would ever be with, or Michael would ever be with her.
Yeah, you don't necessarily see like their chemistry. Like, if you're gonna do that, usually you want to like set up that they have like some kind of a relationship. But yeah, from the get go, it's kind of like these are two people that just would never be together.
Or I suppose Mimi just changes Michael immediately and forever.
I mean, the highest high has got to be Frankie J. Galasso as Andrew Kempster. His fastball is like 103, and he's just like fire and strikes the whole
unparalleled performance.
The whole second part of the movie. But yeah, no, this was good. I think like in terms of the Tim Allen catalog, I mean, this is in the upper half, I think. Like, if you think about Santa Claus and Galaxy Quest as being, like, probably the ultimate or,
top
like,
notch.
his best work, then this is just in a tier below that. It's certainly not, like, in the categories of, like...
Christmas with the Cranks?
Yeah, or just, like, what's the Shaggy Dog or, like, some of those movies. So, like, this is a better example of that. And I think that maybe I guess, like... Critics are never going to like these kind of movies, I suppose. But I don't know. This feels better than a 23% to me. So,
and perhaps they had high hopes after some good films and stuff before that, and we didn't really, we weren't really around. I mean, we were around, but we didn't really know about that stuff.
I did.
At that time.
I actually did.
Sure, of course you did.
All right. So we've kind of noted what we thought of it. Jordan, you want to give some other reviews, or want to talk about what other people thought of it?
Yeah, I think we should get into user reviews.
User review.
All right, these are pulled from IMDb. The message boards may be gone, but the user reviews are still there, and they're spectacular. So, May 21st, 2015, author Python Hyena. This one's called Junk Hole to Junk Hole. They're pretty happy with themselves there. It's long, but I'm just going to read the last sentence. So, Sam Huntington as Tim Allen's son is the biggest idiot character in the film, and it is unfortunate that Huntington is shamed with this embarrassment. The whole theme regarding raising healthy children is bogus within the cheap farce that this film becomes. It is a juvenile comedy at its worst that should be taken out with a blowgun and buried. Score 1 out of 10.
Oh my goodness. Wow, roasted over a fire.
Python Hyena did not like this.
No, I'd say I'm surprised they gave it 1.
Yeah, it seemed like a 0. I mean, it's a juvenile comedy. Juvenile comedy at its worst. What is juvenile comedy at its best, I wonder?
Yeah, perhaps we need to open a dialogue with Python Hyena.
Python Hyena. Next one. Predictable, contrived, not funny, or endearing. I'm going to read this whole one because it really is stupid. There are 2 surprising things about Jungle to Jungle. The first is that, amazingly, this is not a sequel, but actually a remake of a French film. Unlike Journey 2, The Mysterious Island, or Too Fast, Too Furious, which are sequels. The second surprise is that there is nothing. The second surprise is that there is nothing more than a lame family comedy. Even if you had lived your entire life in a jungle and had never seen a film before, Jungle to Jungle would be recognized as a predictable pile of lizard guts. This family film is not funny, believable, or touching, and the characters will make you cringe. I heard the original isn't very good, and unsurprisingly, neither is this movie. And that's Adam Foydart. So he didn't like this because he thought it was going to be a sequel because it had 2 in the title, and it wasn't.
So why would you see the sequel if you haven't seen the first one anyways?
He said... The surprising thing about Jungle to Jungle is that it's not a sequel like Too Fast, Too Furious. There's a lot of like negative ones,
Wowzers.
but I want to find a lot of them are bad, I think. I'll read one more bad one, then I'll switch over to good ones. Bad, bad, bad. I sincerely apologize to all you who liked the film. Jungle to Jungle brings badness to new heights. It is cringe-inducing at all times. We continued watching it simply because we could not comprehend how anything could be so bad. Like a train wreck, we watched in horror, unable to look away. Was it better back in the 90s? I sure hope so. The saddest part is that I like all those actors normally, but that did not help. How did this not get a nod at the Razzies? I'll never know. All right, well, a good movie. This one's called. This was good. This was a good, clean movie with a great plot, which was played pretty well for 99.9% of the time. The scene where the Russian mafia man came to the house to teach a lesson for being double-crossed had a few hokey moments in it, but was still pulled off despite them. My impression is that the primary viewer is not necessarily a Tim Allen fan, and that's all right. I enjoy Tim Allen movies and consider this one of the best ones. A man learns how to take on responsibility as a father, even though he could have ultimately thrown in the towel and just turned his back and walked away from his son. How refreshing to see someone struggle to do the right thing instead of just looking for the easy way out. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, they're at complete opposite sides of the spectrum. I wouldn't say that 99% of the time this plot is fantastic, but I think they're closer to the mark than some of the 1 out of 10 reviews.
This one, enjoyable family tosh. This is not a sophisticated movie, but it is enjoyable for family viewing. Tim Allen anchors it well. Martin Short, Joe Beth Williams, and David Ogden Stiers offer sterling support, and it's good to see Sam Huntington and Lily Sobieski in young roles. So, yeah, mixed bag. But if you want this to be a sequel, you're going to be disappointed to find out that it's not.
If you want this to be a sequel and then miss the first one, you come to the wrong place.
I say so. So yeah, that is Jungle to Jungle, Jordan. Is there anything else we have to say about it?
No, I mean, I think, like you said, we both liked it more than necessarily we thought we would.
I liked it more than those people did. I mean, geez.
Certainly. I think our expectations were down, and that's why it was fine. Like, I mean, we didn't expect it to be awesome.
Like, when people watch these movies and they're like terrible, you can't help but wonder, what did you expect? Like, what were you expecting out of a 1997 Tim Allen movie called Jungle to Jungle? Like, what was the ceiling for you? I guess you got to ask yourself that. But yeah, I did it. I'm glad to have watched it, and I'm glad to have talked about it. I thought it was an enjoying thing, and I think fans of the podcast or fans of our show probably will enjoy the film as well, and probably do. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully you were able to listen to this through donation or otherwise. If you would like to reach out to us with your comments on Jungle to Jungle, feel free to do so at thehomeandpodcast.com, Twitter at homeandpodcast, facebook.com/homeandpodcast. And with that, I think we're done.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for donating. If you did, and if you're listening to this in the future, this will be up for the duration of the podcast. Thank you for listening. We hope that you enjoyed our savagery, and you brought a little savage with you wherever you listen to this. And Jordan, thanks for joining me, and I guess I should say take care.
Take care, everybody.